Good evening and welcome to the Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte Meet the Candidates event for the 2025 federal election. Hosted by the Barrie Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the Barrie and District Association of Realtors, the BDAR. I'm Salim Bardai, the president of the Barrie Chamber of Commerce. The format for the evening: candidates arrived early this evening and drew numbers to determine their speaking orders. Each candidate will have 10 minutes to present their platform and priorities. It is their choice whether they use the full 10 minutes or not. To assist in preparing for tonight, candidates received several reference materials, including the Ontario Chamber of Commerce Federal Priorities Document, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce's 2025 Elections Package, the Community Submitted Questions, the Barrie Chamber's Business Priorities for 2025. These reflect what matters to our residents and business owners, from interprovincial trade barriers to affordable housing, workforce development, and healthcare accessibility. While candidates are free to speak on the topics of their choosing, we encourage them to consider these insights.
Thank you so much to the Barrie Chamber of Commerce for hosting us, and thank you to my fellow candidates. This is incredibly important to gather like this and to hear from your candidates who are vying for your vote and an opportunity to serve as your representative in Ottawa. And the ballot box question to me is very clear. This is an election of our lifetime. And so we are deciding in this election who will lead Canada at an unprecedented time when we are faced with threats from the United States under Donald Trump, and our economy is under threat, and we are hard-working business owners, skilled laborers, professionals. We are moms and dads, and we're families. And we live here. This is home to me too. Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. All of that is in your decision to choose on the ballot between myself, and I want you to know who I am, and another candidate of your choice. I'm Rose Zacharias. I'm a family doctor. My husband and I were successfully recruited by the Aurelia Physician Retention and Recruitment Committee back in early 2000s, and so we live in Oro-Medonte, and my family practice has been primarily in the emergency department at the Aurelia Hospital. More recently, I transitioned my medical practice to Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care. So Rob and I, Rob who's sitting here, came here in early 2000 and made this our home. We love it. We live over by Bass Lake Provincial Park, and we also were picking up branches earlier today, still from the storm. And I've got 4 kids, and 2 of them are here in the room. And you need to know that this has been a family effort for me to come forward as a candidate. I have some medical political experience. I was elected by all 44,000 physicians in Ontario in 2021 to represent them as president of the Ontario Medical Association to Queen's Park. So I met with Premier Ford, Health Minister Sylvia Jones to talk about healthcare system recommendations. What was burning me up then was that we didn't have family doctors enough. We were waiting too long in the emergency departments. And I wanted to talk to government about making those changes for me and my patients. That began my advocacy work. And then I found out I loved it. I loved the people aspect of representing people. I loved the conversations. I loved leaning in. I loved being curious about the things that I didn't quite understand and wanted to know more about to better represent. And I also understood the power inside of the political machine and the people that we trust to make those decisions on our behalf. And I wanted to run for politics. Many of you know me as the provincial candidate. I ran for the Ontario Liberals. It made sense. They were running for healthcare. The questions at the door that I was having in the cold February were around the anxiety we were feeling in politics, in the elections that were coming up, about what were we going to do as Canadians with what we were hearing on the evening news. I remember standing at the door of a woman who had the 6 o'clock news in the background. I heard it over her shoulder. And she came to the door and she said, I was like, I'm your Liberal candidate. I'm running to be your MPP at the time. And she said, what are we going to do about Trump? What are we going to do? What's it going to feel like a year from now to call myself a Canadian? And at that moment, I didn't have a good answer. But what I understood about myself was there is a through line in my line of work to care for people when they are experiencing anxiety and having some suffering around some things they can't control. And so as a doctor, it makes complete sense to me that you would send me to Ottawa as your MP so that I continue to listen to our conversations and represent us there. Why is it such an important decision to make now who will be our Prime Minister? Because we need someone who's strong to stand up to Donald Trump. Mark Carney has already showed us that. He is the right leader for Canada at this time. He is a world-renowned economic expert. He has the international trade relationships that our businesses need. And he has the interests of Canada when we are navigating even the partisan gridlock that I think bore down on the Liberal government. I think we're going to see a working together in the House of Commons like we actually haven't seen before, because it's going to matter that we are united as a Canada to stand up to what's coming down the pipe from the United States. And I want us to be represented there well. What does it mean for us in Barrie? I've talked to you. I met with Paul Markle, the director here at the Chamber. I asked, what is it going on with our business owners? What about the manufacturing? What does it mean to slap those tariffs and then the reciprocal tariffs on aluminum and steel and our plastics and molding industries? And what then are the choices that our people are making when their skilled workers don't have good housing? What does it mean when there's health care gaps and people can't find good care, and so we're competing here in this area for good skilled labor? We're competing here. We are frustrated with the red tape of government when there should only be the financial tools that equip us as business owners who know your product, you know your customers, and you know the generations sometimes of the business that has been built. Believe me, I know this. I had a conversation with my dad on Easter weekend, who is a small business owner. He's run an excavating company, building the foundations of homes in St. Thomas ever since I was a little girl. That's been his job. And he employs about 15 men, and we are a family of some traditional values for good reason. Because my dad said to me, I don't mind paying my taxes, but I want my taxes to be well spent. I don't want them to be wasted. I've seen what good taxes can do. I've seen the social programs that we need. I've discharged patients to no family doctor. I've discharged patients with mental health and addictions. I've seen people on our streets that are homeless. And so we can do both. We can be a responsible government that has our tax money, and we can build our economy. That is the question on the ballot now. I'm so glad we're leaning into these conversations. In many ways, there just has not been an election that is more important at all. We need a fiscal anchor to lead us as a country. And I see Mark Carney knowing, more so than Pierre Poilievre. I see Mark Carney knowing how to navigate, how to think about trade, not with the US, but with Europe and with Asia, that energy corridor to harvest what we are as a Canada with our renewable energy, with our water, our solar, and to make those strong business decisions. And there is a commitment, I think, from Carney, more so than Trudeau, on affordability. And we know that that is key. And then where will new revenue come from? I think it's clear. There are loopholes that ultra wealthy have sometimes been able to get through. There's a commitment by the Liberal government to grab new revenue from there and not put it on the backs of hard working middle-class Canadians. And so to experience economic growth with some responsible tax cuts, even that can happen. And wow, we need good infrastructure to support our healthcare system. I want you to hear that from me. I know it. The Canada Health Act is something I'm so proud to practice under as a doctor, not on your ability to pay, not jumping the queue, not with your credit card to pay for surgery sooner or to see a specialist. There is so much that we care about, and we are caring about Canada when we go now to vote. And it matters to me who we will be as a country. I can't actually predict it, but I think it's going to get a little bit worse. And I want to represent you in Ottawa. Since the election was called, there's been strong predictions that it will be a formed Liberal government. We're thinking differently now than we did 6 months ago about who will govern Canada. And with me, you get someone who understands your concerns, who is committed to understanding your concerns, and will be in a position to deliver results from the benches of a strong Liberal government. That's what I'm seeing. It would be an honor to earn your trust, to continue to have these conversations, and to get your vote. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Taylor. I am a local educator, photographer, resident of Ward 1, and your Green Party candidate. With the many challenges facing us today, a better future can be hard to imagine, but we must in this time come together and fight for it. The Green Party of Canada has as broad a platform as any other party, but simply takes a different lens to politics. We fight for a paradigm shift on both long and short-term solutions, and solutions based in sound economics and sound science. As a result of the wide range of questions submitted tonight, I've broken them into 4 categories and tried to answer as many as possible. So bear with me as I go through my notes here. Being an educator, I wanted to cover as much content with as much substance as possible. I'm going to go through democracy, economics and the environment, healthcare, housing, and affordability. In terms of democracy, the Greens are part of a global network of parties, and we fight to work across party lines, work in coalition governments, and are part of supply and confidence agreements in various parts of the world. We've been in power in BC and in PEI and in various international locations. We believe the #1 job of an MP is to represent their constituents, not be a party cheerleader who's got to toe the party line and be whipped with every vote. We need independent people to make independent decisions based on the needs of their constituents. One of the big problems we have here in our country is the 2-party system that we have under first past the post. It's toxic, and it's leading to a lot of division, the same division we see in the United States. 100% of the power and 40% or less of the vote. Millions of votes electing nobody. Policy lurch, where policy goes back and forth depending on the government of the day. Low voter turnouts. Why bother voting if your vote doesn't actually elect anybody? And lack of accountability. So when this happens, people get marginalized, people get angry. The Greens propose a binding National Citizens Assembly and electoral reform. The Conservatives are largely opposed to proportional representation or changing our voting system. The Liberals under Justin Trudeau promised more than 1,000 times in the 2015 election and reneged because Trudeau didn't get his preferred choice, the alternative vote. And the NDP never prioritizes this issue when given the chance, either provincially or federally. Only the Greens make this a priority. Economics and the environment. Greens are known for being fiscally responsible and socially progressive. In response to Donald Trump, we must be ready to act. We support reducing interprovincial trade barriers as part of our strategy to reduce dependency on the U.S., building closer alliances with countries like Brazil, India, South Africa, part of the BRICS countries, and encouraging a buy Canadian perspective to supporting our economy here. As part of our response to Trump's tariffs, we also work across party lines so that one party does not control the agenda. It's better to work cooperatively rather than with just one party under a majority government. We need to become better prepared to deal with the 21st century economy as well, by not moving one step forward and one step back. We shouldn't fall back into a trap of a fossil fuel-driven economy. The TMX pipeline has cost the federal government more than $30 billion. We cannot repeat the mistake going for Energy East. That is a non-starter. We don't even have upgraders east of Alberta, and that makes no economic sense, not to mention no sense for the climate. As appealing as fossil fuels are, the limits of the biosphere don't give us the option. Point blank, they just don't. Unfortunately, we don't get to negotiate with physics. Science has the final say on this. We also need to stop extracting and shipping so many raw resources to other countries. Our policy for the country's natural resources puts Canada first. We'd like to see a return of domestic manufacturing and the processing of raw materials here at home. It doesn't make economic sense to strip stuff out of the ground and ship it out. We need to process and do more, bring more revenue, more jobs back to this country. Removing red tape is great in some situations for efficiency. However, protecting the people we love, the places we love, our Indigenous peoples, that's not red tape. That's good decision making when we consider those factors, and we need to factor them into any decision that we make going forward. In terms of healthcare, the Greens propose many things in healthcare, including a new Primary Care Health Act where everyone gets a family doctor, expanding mental health coverage to cover therapy, counseling, and psychiatric services, implementing universal pharmacare and dental care, and having the right to a healthy environment. We also support increased support for seniors living at home to avoid duplication of the COVID pandemic when we saw the tragedies in retirement residences across this country. However, the bottom line is healthcare to stay public must be sustainable. We need a focus on wellness, not sickness. We need to keep people healthy in the first place by encouraging healthy diets, access to clean drinking water, a guaranteed livable income. We must do things to reduce the strain on the system. Otherwise, the system will continue to crack and inevitably lead towards increased privatization, which very few of us want. In terms of affordability, one of the biggest issues with housing and affordability that I've been hearing going door knocking, that and the Trump tariffs. It's a major concern on people's minds. There's a lot of things that we can do for it. We propose raising the basic personal amount under our tax to $40,000 from $15,000, giving Canadians an average of $3,000 extra dollars in their pockets every year. That's going to help with the basics of life. We support tripling the amount of social housing by building 1.2 million permanently affordable homes, expanding shelters for youth and transitional housing, and protecting farmland here, right here in Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. That's got to be done. What are we going to do with the projected 300,000 people who are coming here? We're not hearing answers, and right now we're looking at backdoor deals, things happening that the general public is not even aware of, and that is unacceptable. So just to close, a few comments towards different voters. In terms of Liberal voters, Mark Carney is trending towards becoming the next Prime Minister, okay? And that's, for some people, a great thing, for others, maybe not such a great thing. But the Liberals don't need to win this riding in Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte to be elected as government. And strategic voting here in Simcoe County has no impact. All ridings in this area tend to be very split, with significant gaps between the first and the second party. And when you go for a strategic vote, it really doesn't have enough impact to cause a shift in the final result. A range of voices are needed in Canada, and the two-party polarized system of the United States is extremely dangerous and toxic, and it must be overcome by electing Greens and smaller parties to balance things out to avoid that kind of culture in politics. NDP voters, you're running a paper candidate in this election. We need to get a strong third option in this riding to be able to challenge the two biggest parties. So I'm strongly encouraging NDP voters, since we're running an active campaign, join us. We're going to fight for a lot of the same things as you, including proportional representation, so that down the road, your votes will actually go towards electing somebody, not just to be documented. And finally, Conservative voters, Pierre Poilievre is not Aaron O'Toole. Very different profile. He's avoiding the media, attacking public broadcasting and minority interests. He's divisive and labeling people. A lot of instability is what I can see, much like Donald Trump. The immature sloganeering, axe attacks, bring it home, common sense. What do these things even mean? We need adults in the room and mature conversations to solve the problems that we're dealing with. Small business owners, I'd be very concerned about a government that's going to repeal the industrial carbon tax. We're looking at increased trade with Europe. They've got increasing carbon pricing under CBAM. And if we don't have a carbon price in place here, we're going to be shut out of their markets. That's just bad economics. And finally, Oro Springwater, small business owners, farmers. I'd be really concerned about annexation. If I was in that kind of situation, and it's a major issue here in this community, we're not hearing a lot about it. We're not hearing the other parties really talking about it, and I think it needs to be brought forward in terms of not only a business issue, but also in terms of preserving farmland and local food supply, which we're going to need increasingly as we move into a world where we're going to have to become more self-sufficient and the impacts of climate change are increasing. So with that, I will close and thank you for your time and encourage you to seriously consider voting green on April 28th to improve our democracy, to improve our environment, to improve our economy, and to improve the cost of living issues here in Simcoe County. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Great to see so many people out this evening to hear directly from the candidates. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting and for inviting a communist to participate. I'm not only a communist, though. I'm also a father of 3 and a husband of 1. I want to begin my remarks tonight with some good news for Conservative supporters. You have 2 parties to choose from this election. I joke, of course, but they say there is much truth in jest. Having watched last week's leaders' debate, I'm scratching my head trying to find much difference in the policies of the Liberals and the Conservatives. If you're looking for a difference, especially with no NDP candidate present, I ask you to look this way. We stand at a critical moment in history, a moment where the decisions we make today will shape the future for generations to come. The Trump regime is hitting Canada with tariffs, threats of annexation, and demands for a vast increase in military spending. If we don't make the right choice now, the result of this will be plant closures, mass layoffs, and big cuts to healthcare, social programs, and climate action. I'm here tonight not just as a candidate of the Communist Party of Canada, but as a voice for every Canadian who's tired of being left behind. Every worker juggling 3 jobs just to make rent. Every young person drowning in student debt. Every family wondering how they'll afford groceries next week. Every senior forced to choose between medicine and heat. Let's be blunt, Canada's political system is broken. For decades, we've been told we have to choose between 2 options, the Liberals or the Conservatives. But what have they actually delivered? The Liberals, under Trudeau and now Carney, have mastered the art of sounding progressive while doing the opposite. They promised climate action and then bought a $4.5 billion pipeline with our money. They promised reconciliation, yet Indigenous communities still lack clean drinking water today. To me, that's not progress, that's hypocrisy. They love to talk about affordability, yet the cost of living skyrockets while corporate profits hit record highs and big banks and telecoms rake in billions. The Liberals, they give them tax breaks. You get stagnant wages and soaring rents and housing costs. Then we have the Conservatives who don't even pretend to care anymore. They say they'll fix the economy, but whose economy? When Pierre Poilievre talks about freedom, he actually means freedom for the rich to exploit the rest of us. They want to slash public services, privatize healthcare, and attack unions. They push austerity while the rich hoard wealth. That's not leadership. That's class warfare. Conservatives are not fighting for the working class. They're fighting for oil companies, billionaires, developers, and CEOs. Now, both parties will talk this evening about how they're going to fix what's wrong with Canada. But how can you trust the people who caused the problem with the task of fixing it? You simply can't. And that brings me to our vision, the vision of the Communist Party of Canada. Our party builds on the legacy of members such as the great Norman Bethune, who was among the first to champion Medicare. We have a positive vision of Canada rooted in the idea that working people should be in control, that the wealth of this country be shared equitably among the workers who created it, that the exploitation of labor be abolished, ecological degradation reversed, and a planned approach to the relationship of human life with the natural environment be implemented. We're not in the pocket of corporations. We don't take money from Bay Street. Throughout our 104-year existence, we have represented only one interest, the working class of this country. Our platform is bold because the times demand boldness. Now, Trump has become the big issue this election, and we all want to put forward policies that will protect Canadians now and in the coming months and years. For communists, this means nationalizing key industries Trump has targeted for tariffs. I'm talking about steel, aluminum, the Canadian arm of the automotive sector, as well as telecoms and banks. Doing this will also benefit by protecting smaller businesses who rely on these sectors. We believe in fair trade, not free trade, so we want to take Canada out of CUSMA, the North American Free Trade Deal, and negotiate multilateral and mutually beneficial trade agreements. Workers also need to be protected from layoffs that have already begun and will surely get worse, so we will raise employment insurance to 90% of previous earnings. We believe that housing is a human right. We will nationalize housing development and build 2 million social, publicly owned, rent-geared to income homes. Not luxury condos, not Airbnbs, homes for people, not for profit. We'll bring in rent rollbacks and controls that the Liberals and Conservatives refuse to touch. We will ensure that no one pays more than 20% of their income on housing, and will expropriate the holdings of corporate landlords who treat housing like a casino game. Unlike the Liberals who talk about climate while funding fossil fuels, or the Conservatives who deny the science altogether, we will end oil and gas expansion, nationalize the energy sector, and transition Canada to 100% renewable energy within a decade. We will replace cap and trade and carbon tax schemes with strict legal limits and jail CEOs who break the law. We will slash the huge carbon footprint related to the deployment of fighter jets, the naval fleet, and other military purposes by implementing a 75% cut to military spending. If you believe in more military funding, like the other parties up here do, then you don't really have a climate plan. We need to build high-speed rail, and we need to focus on no more greenwashing, no more pipelines, just climate justice. Of course, we know public health care is under attack. We know that all too well here in Ontario. So we'll stop privatization in its tracks. We'll expand Medicare to include prescriptions, dental, vision, and mental health care, all publicly delivered, all free at the point of use. The Liberals say they'll negotiate someday. The Conservatives want to privatize. We say let's fund it now. Our party is the only party that has a real plan for working people. We'll raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour. Now, higher wages have been proven to be as equally good for businesses as it is for workers. After all, businesses need customers with money to spend. We'll legislate a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay and restore card-checked union certifications so workers can organize. And we'll bring in price controls on food and fuel. We want to tax the rich to fund the people. We would double the corporate tax rate, apply capital gains tax to 100% of the gain, abolish HST, and eliminate taxes on incomes under $50,000. We'll also close tax loopholes and offshore havens, and we'll use this additional tax increase to eliminate tuition, cancel student debt, invest in public transit, childcare, senior care, and expand social programs. Because in a country as rich as Canada, poverty is a policy choice. We'll also adopt an independent Canadian foreign policy of peace and disarmament. We'll enact boycott, divestment, and sanctions on Israel. We need to end the genocide in Gaza, support a Palestinian state, and ensure the right of return for Palestinian families. Canada must get out of NATO and NORAD. Canadian soldiers must be repatriated. We need to cancel all military exports. How else are we going to help you? We want to substantially increase the Canada Pension Plan, old age security, reduce the pension age to 60, double the Canada disability benefit, bring in a guaranteed livable income, legislate and enforce protections for sexual orientation, and fight for real electoral reform. Folks, the crisis we face today, economic, environmental, social, is not accidental. It's the logical result of a capitalist system that puts profit before people, a system Liberals protect with a smile and Conservatives defend with a scowl. Both serve the same master, capital. We're the only party that dares to imagine a different future, a Canada where the working class rules, a Canada without billionaires, where power is democratic, where peace, not imperialism, guides our foreign policy, and where the land is respected, not exploited. So to those who say our ideas are too radical, I say this. What's radical is letting a child go hungry while grocery CEOs make millions. What's radical is watching our planet burn so oil barons can profit another quarter. What's radical is pretending we're free when we spend our lives in debt, stress, and struggle. The Communist Party is not radical. The capitalism is. Maybe this isn't the message you want to hear. Maybe I didn't follow the script this evening. But hey, I'm a communist at a Chamber of Commerce event, so what did you really expect? But let me wrap it up. I want your vote, and I believe our party is putting forward the best policy for Canadians. But here's the thing. By all accounts, nationally, this has become a two-horse race. You have one party led by a Conservative who thinks the markets should be trusted to solve our economic problems, who doesn't believe the wealthy and corporations should pay their fair share, who wants to hand billions of our dollars to developers and who loves the idea of privatization. And you have another party led by Pierre Poilievre. Yeah, you heard that right. Yes, the Liberals and the Conservatives are basically two sides of the same coin. So in Barrie, Springwater, or Oro-Medonte, you can pick the least worst choice, or you can vote for someone who is advocating for the real change Canadian workers and their families need. Change that will protect families from the consequences of Trump's tariffs, change that will lower prices and raise wages, make access to housing a reality, refocus Canadian foreign policy on peace, and address the climate crisis. This election, let's reject the false choice between Liberals and Conservatives. Let's choose people over profit. Let's choose solidarity over greed. Let's choose a Canada for the many, not the few. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome out on this beautiful sunny day. I know we've all had some trying times as we've been out, weather times that is, when we've been out campaigning, so it's nice to see the sunshine out. Firstly, I would like to start off by thanking the Barrie Chamber of Commerce and the Barrie District Association of Realtors for hosting us tonight. I would also like to thank the members of the Barrie business community and all residents who are in attendance tonight. Additionally, I want to recognize and thank all my fellow candidates who have joined us this evening. Putting your name on a ballot is no easy task. It is stressful and it is challenging for yourselves and our families. I would like to commend you for your efforts. I look forward to an informative conversation about the future of our country and how we can make Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte an even better place to live, work, play, raise a family, start, and grow a business. To start things off, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Surprise, surprise from a politician, correct? I have proudly served as the Member of Parliament for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte for the 2 terms, having first been elected to Parliament in the 43rd general election in 2019. I have lived in this community for over 35 years, where my wife and I have raised our 2 sons. Prior to being elected as a Member of Parliament, I was elected to 3 consecutive terms on Barrie City Council, where I gained experience as Chair of Finance and Corporate Services, Chair of the Infrastructure Investment and Development Services Committee, and Deputy Chair of the Barrie Police Services Board. I also sat on several committees, including the Barrie and Area Physician Recruitment Task Force. Outside of politics, I'm an avid pickleball player, who isn't these days, and I enjoy exploring the beautiful local scenery in our community with my wife and our dog, Ollie. Over the past 5.5 years as the Member of Parliament for our community, I've been a strong advocate for the needs of our region. I have fought for good jobs, investments, and better services for residents in our community. I have served on the Transportation Committee. I have also recently been appointed as Deputy Shadow Minister of Public Safety and served on the Public Safety Committee, where I have heard firsthand about the alarming increases in crime in our community and across Canada. One highlight while serving as a Member of Parliament was the introduction of my private member's bill, Bill C-389, which sought to eliminate the application of the GST from the sale of AEDs. I have seen firsthand how important it is to make AEDs easily accessible. In rural communities, AEDs can be few and far between, and my bill aimed to improve the ability for individuals who do not have access to an AED nearby to purchase an AED for their home, farm, cottage, making this life-saving device easier to obtain. I have worked collaboratively with members from all parties, and when re-elected, I will continue to work alongside my colleagues to champion legislation that will improve the lives of all Canadians. The stakes in this election are high, and the Liberal government, who has been in power for a decade, is asking for a 4th term. I have had conversations with thousands and thousands of residents during my time as a Member of Parliament, and during this campaign, I have heard over and over again that members of our community want and need a change in government. Residents do not feel they are better off today, and after a decade under the current Liberal government, residents want to see a new government who will make housing more affordable for Canadians, to make our streets safe again, and to bring down the cost of living. Folks, I prepared this speech a few days ago, and I was going to just read it. But I'm going to go a little off topic here tonight, because I had a letter sent to my office today. A letter from a resident who didn't think politics are going in the right direction. They're saying life has become too divisive. Politics has become too angry. And I agree with them. This is my 6th election, and this by far is the most divisive, angry election I've ever been involved in. I've always made it a point myself of trying to reach out to candidates and say hi to them and greet them. I think Rose would agree. I even called when you first put your name in and introduced myself. I've even always tried to get together and have a breakfast meeting or a meeting with someone just to extend the olive branch. It never has to become personal. So it pained me today when I received an email from a resident, as I said, of an email that was sent out to many residents in Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte. And I have a copy of that letter here tonight. It was sent out by our Liberal candidate. Recently, we heard of an issue that went on at a Conservative convention where some people tried to infiltrate it with pins accusing different variations, and even the leader of the Liberal Party said that that type of tone and that attitude wasn't right, it wasn't fair, it wasn't going to be permitted. So that's why this letter was a little shocking. I've always conducted myself in an upright manner. I've never once, ever said a bad word about a fellow candidate in a campaign, and if you can find that, I'd like to see it, but I purposely never do it. So it was shocking when I received that. So I changed my speech, which I said I wrote a few days ago, and I have a stop sign here that said stop, and just before I came in, I scribbled down some notes, and those notes were going to be basically the rest of this speech. And Rose, I had to be honest with you, it wasn't going to be very pleasant for you for the next few minutes, because I was very hurt by the letter that was received and sent to my office. But when I saw you walk in tonight with your family, especially your kids and your husband, I'm not going to go that way. I'm not going to say what was on my mind. I'm just going to say I was disappointed and I was hurt, and I won't conduct myself that way. So I will carry on with my speech. I'm probably going to be a little over in time now, but I'll leave it at that for now. Conservatives have a real plan to bring the change that so many Canadians deserve. At the forefront of this plan is our Canadian First Economic Action Plan, with the realistic goal of boosting Canada's economy activity by a total of $500 billion over the next 5 years. After a decade under the Liberal government, everything is more expensive. A decade ago, it took 39% of the median household income to cover the cost of home ownership. Now, under the Liberal government, it takes up to 60%. In the GTA, you now need to earn $223,000 to qualify for a mortgage on the average home. Grocery inflation is at an all-time high, recently rising by 3.2% month over month, the highest rate since 1974. In Ontario, food bank usage was up 134% last year compared to the same period in 2019. Over 2 million people accessed a food bank in 2024, and over 1 million people in Ontario relied on food banks last year to feed themselves and their families in our community. The Barrie Food Bank currently serves 7,000 individuals each and every month. Additionally, we have the worst per-person economic growth in the G7. In 2023 alone, $460 billion in investment fled Canada. That is $11,500 per Canadian, money that should have been building homes, creating jobs, and growing our economy. That's why our Conservative Economic Action Plan is so important. We must restore affordability for all Canadians. Under our plan, workers will keep more of their paychecks with a major tax cut. Cutting income taxes by 15% so the average worker can keep an extra $900 each year, while dual income families will keep $1,800 more. Conservatives will also make each dollar go further by axing the federal sales tax on new homes by up to $1.3 million. Combined with a plan to incentivize cities to lower development charges, this will save home buyers $100,000 on new homes. And to protect our auto workers' jobs in the face of threats from the U.S. administration and save Canadians money, Conservatives will remove the sales tax on new Canadian cars. We will also train 350,000 new apprentices over the next 5 years with an expanded union training and innovative program, and restore the $4,000 apprenticeship grants that the Liberals canceled. This means more good, well-paying union jobs for our young people and more homes being built by our skilled trades workers for those young people to live in. To develop our resources and get our clean energy to new markets, we will lift the cap on Canadian energy and scrap the industrial carbon tax. We will create a national energy corridor, a pre-approved transport corridor for pipelines, transmission lines, railways, and other critical infrastructure. Conservatives will also bring in the Canadian First reinvestment tax cut to reward Canadians who reinvest their earnings back into our country. We will rapidly approve Phase 2 of the LNG Canada to double the project's gas production and accelerate at least 9 other projects currently snarled in Liberal red tape. We will cut red tape by 25% with a new 2-for-1 rule, eliminating 2 regulatory requirements for every new one, imposed to unleash our entrepreneurs and require the Federal Auditor General to verify them every year. This economic action plan will not only make life more affordable, but supercharge Canada's economy with major new infrastructure and resource projects across the country. Seeing I'm going to have to skip a couple pages because I went offline there a little bit and I'm getting the 1-minute signal, I will just close by saying the Conservative Party platform is about change and hope. We want to restore the Canadian dream, where if you work hard, you can buy a home on a safe street, and if you choose, start a family. After a decade on the Liberal government, that dream has faded for so many. When re-elected, I will continue to fight for the great people of Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte, and continue to work alongside my Conservative colleagues to champion legislation that will improve the lives of all Canadians. It has been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you tonight. I greatly appreciate you all taking time to listen and engage with us, the candidates in attendance. I would once again like to thank my fellow candidates and the organizers, the Barrie Chamber of Commerce and the Barrie District Association of Realtors. Thank you.